Welcome back to another episode of Create a New Tomorrow. I'm your host, Ari Gronich, and here I have with me Matt Phillips. This guy has trained amazing athletes. Besides being an elite athlete himself, he has trained just amazing athletes in performance, business, mental toughness. He's an expert and founder of CEO of Pro Athlete Advantage. And, this is somebody who has trained with Navy SEALs, with military, with elite athletes. And I just want to, preface this by saying mental toughness is so important. Matt, why is mental toughness kind of the area that you decided to focus on?
It's interesting. First of all, thanks for having me, man. It's great to reconnect. This is going to be a blast. But it's interesting as I look back at my athletic career, and to your point, I was fortunate to play at a fairly high level, Division I college baseball professionally overseas. I went into the corporate world and have lived, around the world working for Fortune 500 companies. I've launched my own business over, 9 years ago now. And what I've consistently seen as you progress in these different organizations, right, even the sports and organization, as you progress in these different areas, the one true differentiator in every one of those that was consistent across the whole thing was this concept of mental toughness. It's what's going on in between the ears that really separates, to steal the Jim Collins thing, the good from the great, right? It separates the people who are just okay at their sport and okay at their job to the ones that just really excel. That was the one differentiator I saw. It all comes down to the way you think, the way you act, the way you treat yourself, that mental toughness. That's why I get so fired up about what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I had, as you know, Khadivas Robinson and Dominic Arnold, both are Olympic world champion. I mean, top of the game, top of the game. And one of the things that I asked Dominic was, what was the difference? He broke the world record, and he doesn't like to talk about breaking the world record because it was the same race. He broke the world record about like a fraction, not even a tenth of a second. I think it was less than a tenth of a second. I mean, the level of closeness in those two athletes. So the skill set wasn't the issue,
Yep.
Right? So I asked him about what was the thing, and he said, I was running down and I did one minor thing.
Yes.
And had I pulled back that form just a little bit, it would have been there. But
yes,
so talk about that tenth of a second difference between the best in the world and somebody who's probably not going to be remembered.
It was interesting because when you were talking about like the tenth of a second, I remember I did an interview for my podcast with a guy named Mark Allen. And I always find this, I love telling this story. ESPN named him the greatest endurance athlete of all time. It was interesting though, because at one point in his career, he was winning every triathlon known to man, right? He was winning everything. He's got a record of winning 21 in a row. But every year he would go to the big one in Kona, Hawaii. I'm sure everyone's watched, I don't know,
Ironman,
NBC or whatever, but they do that recap of, the Ironman triathlon, like one of the most difficult races in the world. And 6 years in a row, he lost, right? He would get anywhere from I think he was second to fifth place. And it bothered him so much that he was actually contemplating not going back. I mean, this is the guy, he's like, man, I'm winning everything, like off the island, and I go to the island and I'm not winning, and I couldn't figure it out. And he decided to give it one more chance to go back, one more chance. He rattled off 6 wins in a row, right? So he lost 6 and then won 6. And so I asked him, I said, Mark, I'm like, what happened between race 6 and race 7? Because that's a substantial shift and change, right? Like, what happened? And he said it was one small thing, one mindset shift that I had. And this is what I think is so powerful. And like in all of our lives, it takes, we think it's this massive change, Ari, right? That we have to, completely rethink everything and retrain a different way and rework our business. It's like, no, it's I bet one small thing that you need to make. And he says when he reflected back those first 6 races, his thought process was 100% kind of caught up in how his competitors were training and how they were going to approach the race. He decided between race 6 and 7 that he's going to completely ignore his opponents and he's going to train to the best of his ability. And when he shows up that day, he's going to swim his best swim. He's going to bike his best bike. He's going to run his best run, and he's going to let the results happen as they want to. But he knows if he shows up his best, giving 100% of what he has at every moment in that race, that probably good things will happen. That one mindset shift, Ari, lost 6 and started winning, and now set a record for winning 6 of the Ironman Konas in a row, another record. It's that one shift in his mind. And for Mark, it was the fact of like, stop looking at others and look at myself.
I was training with Mike Hungerford for quite a while. And what I would ask her is if she felt like the issues that she was seeing with injuries and with, pain and with cramping and all those things that she would see on a regular basis, if any of that happened to the person who won. And she would say, inevitably, unequivocally, no. That when they won, all their pain had left their body. That didn't mean that the next day they weren't feeling it.
Right.
That moment, the pain was gone. The trial had lifted. But, the idea is that when your mindset is on that win, the pain goes away. So let's relate that to away from athletics a little bit to life in general. Are you living your best life day in and day out? And if not, from a mental toughness perspective, why not? Why do people not live their best life every single day? What's the block, the obstacle for that?
Yeah, at its basic level, it's the brain doing its job, right? Because the brain is set up, and there's also some neuroscience out there, but it talks about the ancient part of our brain, which is 2 million years old, and its entire job is back when we were cavemen and cave women to protect us at all costs, right? So a saber-tooth tiger is going to jump out. How do I flee or fight or whatever I need to? But the brain is constantly looking for threats around us. And we first have to be able to recognize and just say it out loud. Okay, I know my brain does that. Because we have to start creating a different awareness of the way our brain works and the power within and the way we can kind of manipulate it and change it to open up the possibilities instead of constantly looking for the things that are going wrong, the things that are threats, which is going to hold us back.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the brain and how that works. Let's say just as a scenario, you're the guy that is motivated by the naysayers, and I'm the guy that's motivated by the positive affirmations that people are sending me, right?
Yes.
So there's 2 different kinds of brains and reactions and responding to stimulus, right? So most people that I've seen tend to be more motivated by the naysayers than they are by the positive. It's harder for people to accept a compliment than it is to accept the negative and then try to even turn that negative into a positive. But what's the science behind that, the neuroscience behind that?
Yeah, it's all the same, right? So we take whatever information we have, we internalize it, we attach an emotion to it, and then some sort of action happens from that, or inaction from that. And so to your point, yes, like we're all motivated by different things, right? I'm a very positive guy. I love, when people compliment, what I do. I'm a people pleaser as well, just like you. But one of my biggest fears, ultimately, when you boil it down, I'm not scared of failure. Like it is what it is. I played a game based on failure, right? I mean, you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, which means you fail 7 out of 10 times. You could be in the Hall of Fame if you're playing in the major leagues, right? You're doing pretty well. You're counting your money, and life is in theory good. So it's not the fear of failure, but it's and this is where truthfulness comes in, like with yourself, right? Having integrity with yourself. Like, what are you really scared of? For me, it's like what other people say and what they're going to think, right? So if I'm doing well, they're going to be really behind me. If I'm doing poorly, and this is what you see in sports too, right? You see all the naysayers come out.
Yeah. I just want to emphasize one point here, just because I'm a science geek and a therapist, and that's what I do, is when you're doing those breaths, if you're breathing both in and out your nose, you'll shut your adrenal glands down and allow them to relax. You'll shut down cortisol levels. You'll allow your body to go into more of a sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system.
Yep.
If you breathe through your mouth when you're in that state, and this is a trick for athletes as well, if they're running a long marathon, to breathe through their nose versus breathing out and in their mouth, is you turn on cortisol, you turn on the adrenal glands, and that can cause the anxiety to get higher. That's why when you see people and they're it's always through their mouth that the anxiety is showing. Yes. And then if you turn that inward, breathe through your nose, you'll shut the adrenal glands down much, much faster and allow your body to go into that response of frontal cortex versus reptilian brain, fight or flight.
Yes. That's a great point. Yeah, because it's slow, calm, controlled breaths, right? Which you have the control if you choose to take it. So it's a huge piece that, again, we feel like we're under threat. Like we always say in the U.S., first world problems, right? First world problems, like didn't make the sale of this big contractor. Like there's all these like funny terms, but they're still perceived threats. So whether you're in the first world and you're living in the U.S. or whatever, it's still perceived threats. So it's the way you control it though that pulls you back. Now I can make a proper decision. So it's just understanding the power you have within you.
My discontentment right now with influencers, impactors, people who are making a stand for something is that they're doing so in a way that works for them and not necessarily in a way that works for the people that they're trying to impact. Right?
Yes.
And so when I look at my career as Olympic, Paralympic, pro athlete, trainer, therapist, I'm working on their bodies, I'm working on their minds, I'm working on their nutrition, I'm working on all kinds of things. But the one thing that I always had to do if I wanted to get the results that I wanted to get is I had to do a really thorough client intake, a really thorough one, because I had to find out exactly who this person was that was in front of me, not just the stats that they had, not just their data, but I had to know these people if I wanted to get the results. That meant the difference between first place and last place. That meant the difference even between first place and fourth place, which is even more, disconcerting for some.
Yes.
But we had to get results. If we didn't get results, and I say this a lot, if we didn't get results, I didn't have a job. I didn't have a business. And people don't seem to get the results that I would like to see. Impactors, right? I look at somebody and I'm not going to call them out, but I'm going to say this person impacts tens of thousands of people, sometimes at once, right? In big rooms. And 90-something% of the people that are there will be motivated for 2 to 3 weeks. And then will need to either go back to another event to continue their motivation, or they fall off. about maybe 10% of those people, well, maybe 5% of the people take the actionable steps, spend 6 months, maybe even a year doing the things that they're being told, and then they fall off. And then maybe the other 4%, right?
Yep.
Create long-term change. And then maybe 1% is going to be the biggest,
Yes.
next new thing, right? So
Yep.
and I'm making up these numbers, obviously, that this is my,
Well, it's New Year's resolutions stats. Yeah, absolutely. Keep going.
it's my belief in numbers, but this is a basic premise. So I want to change those numbers. So actually, I've been developing a mastermind course that I'm designing the same way as I design a athlete going from an injury to a gold medal or a world championship.
Yes.
Because everybody's starting with some kind of injury.
Yes.
Some kind of mental, emotional trauma, injury, something. And so I figured if I designed this in a certain way, then I'm going to get 90% having the results, not 90% not having the results, right? I'm going to flip the switch on it. There's still going to be 10% of the people that, you just can't help. You might not be the right person for.
Correct.
But the idea is to design things that work for the majority versus the minority. So I get pissed off a bit because I see them taking everybody's money and lowering the value because they're charging a lot and they're getting very poor results in many cases.
Yep.
And so the value goes down even though the price is going up. And then somebody like me comes along, or somebody like you comes along, and we have these massive skills, right?
Yes.
To get more of the 90% to get better results. And we're the ones typically who, well, we may not necessarily be struggling, but we're not the ones that are on stage. So I want to kind of flip the switch on this a little bit and find out both how we can impact these impactors more so that they are really designing to get better results. Corporations designing to get results. Governments designing to get results. Systems in general designed to get results. How do we switch this so that I can be calmer?
Yeah. Well, and Ari, it's funny. As you were talking about that, my two thoughts. One is, like, why are you following these people? You don't have to answer this. This is more rhetorical. And let me talk about that for a minute, because we only have so much energy during the day, right? So we wake up with a certain amount of energy, and that's why we go to sleep at night, because we've expended the energy and need to recharge, right? So we've got these, I don't know, call them little coins in a piggy bank, right? And we've only got so many withdrawals from the piggy bank before the pig needs to go to sleep again. Well, we spend so much of our time expending energy on things that really don't matter. So that's why my first question of, like, when we start getting heated and like I don't know, just excited about that stuff, right? Again, I've been there, but it's like, why are they doing well or whatever? But again, now we're focusing all of our attention and energy on someone else that we have zero influence over, who they have made their choice, and we're putting expectations on those people. You should be doing this. You should be having a different influence there. That's not our problem. That's not our choice. That is their choice to wake up and make that decision for themselves every day.